There we go. It wasn't pushed in all the way. There you go. Again.
Good morning, everyone. Well, yeah, now it's working. Thank you for joining us. I'm 3 minutes late, and Mayor Perry has already fined me. So we're going to, as usual, we're going to get right into it, and we have the great pleasure of having Mr. Rich Goff from TCL will lead us off today. Mr. Goff, welcome.
Good morning.
Morning.
So, is it okay if I just walk around?
You can do whatever you want as long as somebody can hear you.
I'm Rich Goff. I'm standing in for my Vice President for Advancement, Mary Lee Carnes, who got off an airplane from Houston last night and tested positive for COVID. So she's out of sorts, out of the way for a while, and I'm standing in. I just found out about this, so the good news is it may be quick, but I'll give you the important points, I think. So I am Rich Goff. I'm the president of the Technical College of LOWCOUNTRY. Is this the
very top one.
Okay. I've been president now for 10 years. 10 years. I talked a little bit this morning about the college, but I primarily want to talk about the Regional Workforce Training Center, which is quickly coming to fruition on our New River campus, just down the road. Let me tell you a little bit about TCL. I think you all know a fair amount about TCL, but it's probably good to refresh a little bit. Our student population is about 3,300, almost 3,400 students. That makes us the largest higher education institution in the area. Of that number, a good number of those are dual enrollment students. Dual enrollment students are students that are in high school, and I like to say learn once, credit twice. They get their high school credits, and they also get college credits. Many of our students walk away with both a high school diploma and an associate's degree at the same time. In fact, Rodriguez is my guest speaker at my graduation. I was having a number of his students come across my stage, graduating from TCL with an associate's degree before they get their graduation in high school, which is pretty amazing. Those students not only they can go for a certificate, they can go for a workforce-oriented degree, an AAS, or another type of degree, a AA or AAS or AS, and they can go on to university. Their chances of getting into the university of their choice, whether it's one of the top tier schools, Clemson or Carolina, is much higher if they do that. And they tend to persist and stay in and complete at a much higher rate than the regular students coming straight from high school. Plus, it just saves their parents and themselves a lot of money, My grandson is at Wofford in his senior year, and I shudder to think how much debt he's going to have when he leaves that college. So we're at about 3,300 students, growing fast. This current semester, we were up about 6%. For spring that's coming up, which is starting in January, we're currently trending at 13% up, which is pretty good, and that bucks the national trends. So we're doing well in terms of our enrollment. And I will just say, maybe I'm talking too much here, but I will just say that enrollment is very important to us because that means we're training people for the LOWCOUNTRY's workforce. But it also means that, you're going to see this in a minute, that 92% or more of our students who graduate with us stay in the area. They stay here and they work here. They don't leave and go someplace else. 91% are LOWCOUNTRY residents. That means their students come from our service area, which is Hampton, Pelleton, Jasper, and Beaufort. The other 9%, a lot of those are military students. So we have a lot of people who are just from here, train here, educate here, stay here. Okay, so 18% active duty military. I'm pretty proud of that number. We've been up from probably around 3 or 4% when I got here 10 years ago. I said, that's way too little. We got to do much better. We got our military affiliated students. Actually, I think it's a bit higher than that now, higher than 18%. Those are active duty Marines, sailors, their spouses and families, and basically people who have recently separated from the service. I call that our renewable resource, because those folks who come off those bases can fill many of these jobs, get workforce training, and fill the jobs we need them to fill here in the Lowcountry. I will say just a second bit more that we have about 80 programs, degrees, diplomas, certificates in the college. That's quite a few. It ranges from welding and plumbing, light construction, HVAC, all the way through criminal justice to English degrees, and on to our medical programs. Our allied health programs are our strong point. They're our forte. That's what people tend to come to TCL for, and they go there and they do very well. We also do things like truck driver training. We do a lot of different things. I like to say we can take somebody from minimum wage to $80,000 or $90,000 a year in about 12 weeks. That's pretty amazing, and we can do that for our folks here in the Lowcountry. We have a 96% placement rate. That means people who graduate from TCL with a degree in whatever it might be go to work in that discipline when they graduate. That's a pretty big deal. A lot of universities can't say that. There's the counties we serve: Beaufort, Colleton, Hampton, and Jasper, and other. You can see the percentages of the students that are enrolled from those counties. So let me talk just a second about the Arthur E. Brown Regional Workforce Training Center. This is an initiative that's been on the books for a very long time. I say as long as I've been here, really. We've talked about the need for a workforce training center this side of the river. We've had a number of studies done as recently as a couple of years ago. One was from a Clemson group that came in, did an extensive study of the programs we offer, and did an analysis of, are those programs meeting the workforce needs of the area? If not, what programs should we add? What programs should we delete? And then it talked about what's needed for the future in terms of growth in this area, particularly in terms of IT, logistics, and other things. And of course, the trades are always in high demand. And we call it the Arthur E. Brown Regional Workforce Training Center, named after General Brown. I think everybody in this room probably knows General Brown. He actually hired me 10 years ago. And one of the reasons I want to come to this area is because I want a chance to work for a leader like General Brown. He's just an amazing person. Just this past week on Thursday, we had our chef's table. It's a fundraiser at Sea Pines, and it's always been very successful. That fundraiser helps us to raise money to support the Culinary Institute of the South, which is a facility that was recently built with the help of all you folks out here. It's your building. Very little or no state support in that project, but it houses our culinary and hospitality programs that support the needs of the culinary and hospitality industry in this area. And that is one of the highest, if not the highest, producing job-wise in the area. But Arthur E. Brown, General Brown, is my mentor. We celebrated his 95th birthday at the celebration this past Thursday. And I'm telling you, he may have lost his step, but he was 2 ahead of us all the time anyway. So he's still a step ahead. He's that good. And we chose to name the building after him. We did have a groundbreaking. It was sort of a ceremonial groundbreaking, because you're going to see in a minute, we're still trying to raise some money to get this project going. But we really wanted to have it when General Brown was with us, and so we chose to do that maybe a little ahead of time, but we did that. What was that, Mayor? It was
A couple months ago.
Several months ago. 4 months
Yeah,
ago.
it was in the summer, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was in the summer. went very well. And you can see a picture of it here. The building on the right is the Angus Cotton Building, another prominent individual from Hilton Head. And then the new facility. The purpose of the building is to expand our training capacity. All these studies say we needed more training in those various areas. And you're going to see some of the programs, but it's primarily IT and logistics oriented, plus the trades as well. We're talking about mechatronics in terms of the trades, and more welding, more HVAC. We're talking about on the academic side, the typical general education courses, and primarily logistics, adding logistics, IT, cyber, and AI. I'd like to brag just for a second about our cyber program. That's been primarily an initiative in Beaufort with the support of the city and the project that they're running. But our team placed 43rd out of a nationwide competition of all universities and colleges in this country. So we did very well in that week-long competition, and I'm very proud of our group. I stole a lady from Penn State to come down and head this program up. I didn't have to twist her arm too much. She came down here and saw the quality of life we have, and she was happy to get out of the snow and come and be with us. So their loss is our gain. The building will enable us to add new programs, like I mentioned, and it will also allow us to expand current programs. That building, the Cotton Building you saw a moment ago, is slammed. It's the most used building we have in our facilities. We have facilities in Hampton. We opened up something recently in Colleton County. We have the New River campus, then our main campus in Beaufort. Additionally, about half of our enrollment is online, and 2/3 of our students take at least one class online. So there's a lot of online courses that are being taught. That was kind of motivated and accelerated by COVID, and it just hasn't gone away. A lot of our students want to take classes that way. I don't think that's the preferred way to do it. I think a lot of students don't learn as well in that environment. They don't complete as often, or as many of them don't complete as they do the traditional students. But it's the only way some people can go, and that's what we do. Promote workforce readiness. I was just talking to someone a little bit earlier about workforce. I think it was, who was I talking to? I was talking to you, Josh. I talked to John O'Toole. He tells me that either the first or second thing that a new business wants to know about when they get here is where's the workforce going to come from? Where's the training? Where's the immediate workforce, and where's the pipeline to keep their workforce filled? And that in that way, the state and much of the local area looks at the college, at TCL, to provide that workforce. We're your workforce development institution. Support economic development, kind of goes hand in hand with what I just said. And increase access to workforce certificates. Certificates have become very quickly kind of the golden standard. It used to be that a bachelor's degree or a master's degree was the way to go. In fact, I was at a party recently on Ladies Island. A family were there, and there was a young man that came in, and he had two friends with him. And I asked him what he was doing. He said, "Well, I'm at Carolina, and I'm studying political science." So, I said, "That's great. So you're about to graduate, right?" "Yeah." What are you going to do with your degree?" He said, "I don't know. There's no jobs." And I said, "Oh, that sounds rough. Maybe you can come to TCL, the finishing school, we could help you get something you can get a job with." He said, "Oh, no, I think I'm going to go and get my master's degree." I said, "In what? Political science." So he's going to double down on political science, and I just wondered about the value in that. But that was his plan. But certifications, certificates are the way to go in the future, both for credit or non-credit side. Businesses and industry want certificates, nationally recognized certificates in things that they need. And you can get these certificates, you can stack them up, or you can go individually, but that's the credential that seems to be the most important thing right now. Would you agree with that? He's shaking his head yes, I think he is. But certificates are important. Now, I'm not saying bachelor's degree and master's degrees aren't important. They still are. I mean, it worked for me, and I think but that's sort of the old model. I think if you can combine a certificate along with a degree, that's the way to go. So that's just a quick look at the floor plan of the building we're proposing. It's about 50,000 square feet. It allows us to add about 850 students. 12% of the students we think will come from outside the low country. That's part of the study we did. They gave us that number. 51,000 square feet. Cost per square feet is $451. Seems a little high maybe, but for this type of institution that has a lot of equipment and different things in it, it's not that unreasonable. Total cost of the project, $26 million. The setup program and the equipment cost is going to be, we think, about $2.5 million, and the cost of construction about $23.5 million. So far, we have investors from Beaufort County, Jasper County, the state, and the city of Hardeeville. Beaufort County is the largest investor in this project. Some of the folks in this room I have to thank for that. $7.5 million. Jasper has committed $1 million. The state put 13.5 in. That was a little bit over a time. And then the city of Hardeeville recently just awarded us a grant for $150,000, which we're very thankful for. But that leaves a need of about 1.3, about 1.4. And that's really because of just escalation of the cost of construction. That if we were talking about this 2 years ago, we probably would have enough funds. We thought we were going to be there. But we're still now trying to raise another $1.4 million. There's some hope that we can get that from the state this coming fiscal year, beginning in July. We're also applying for some EDC grants, which we think will provide some additional funding. And we're continuing to fundraise for this. But I am certain that it won't be long until we can say we have all the money together and start the process with the state. They won't let us take step one with the state until all the money's in hand. And so therefore we haven't begun all those hoops the state requires us to go through. That process itself can take up to a year. And then you've got the construction time, then you have the time to get the students through the pipeline. And if you talk about it, think about it, we're probably talking about 4 years from today before this first student will graduate. So time is of the essence. We have to move on this quickly. We know that with all the logistics that's coming to the area, especially in the Hardeeville area, we definitely need to get our logistics programs energized. We have a small program now, 26 students, I think, but it needs to be much bigger to meet the need. And so that's going to be one of our primary focuses. So we're seeking about a $1.4 million more. That is the last slide. So I'm open to address questions if you have any.
I will start with the board. Anyone from the board like to ask or make a comment?
Well, I'll make a comment. I was fortunate enough to be at the chef's table last Thursday night, and it was absolutely phenomenal. Great food, great service. So one of the things that I'm looking to bring forward on Hilton Head is to really take our conversations to what is business retention, what is new business development, and the opportunities that exist to diversify our economic impacts. I kind of came up with this last night as I had a sleepless night. High tech, low impact, high earnings, lower age, right? Because the ultimate goal is to have a lower demographics come into the community to stop us from being 58.9 years old. And to really,
It's a little bit young now.
it does. I'm a little bit over that now. But where we're going is dependent upon that workforce that can sustain a high-tech industry. You know, we're fortunate to have some really high-tech military, establishments on the island, but how we take that and utilize it to attract others is going to be really valuable. And one of the conversations that I have had with Beaufort County Economic Development is, as these companies come in, what are they also going to do to support these institutions, right? Not just the workforce, but also the housing side. So there's all these things that get mixed together. You know, as they bring in, they've got to be a participant at the table to help us drive all that. So,
But I think they can help jumpstarting it, and then I think by paying good wages, they can help.
that's right.
I think that will happen. We need to have good jobs for our high school graduates so they stay here, and we need to have good jobs available to the military that are actually the base. Back here, I know Frank's a fellow Marine. There he is, sitting in the back, maybe here somewhere. So those folks coming off, those men and women coming off the bases are terrific. Bridge program. They have a bridge program that, trying to get me to speak louder. Bridge program that gives them 6 months to transition. If the squadron commander or the battalion commander or whoever it is in that case can afford to let them go, then they can take up to 6 months of training before they're actually separated from the service. And we want to capture those individuals with this training so that they will come and they will stay here in the area. And their spouses are very important too. You know, if you can keep your spouse happy, they're more likely to stay right here. So we're working very hard on that, and you can see that in the numbers that we're training at this point. So thank you. And I will also add that our most immediate demand, frankly, are the folks that are already here, the health science programs. You know, everything from surgical tech to nursing to rad tech to, you know, lab tech, all those programs are in great demand. And I could train more people if I had this, when I get this facility, because I'm just maxed out on the Beaufort campus. Plus, it's a long ways for people to drive. We bring a lot of people up from Georgia counties and other areas and have to drive all the way to Beaufort. It's a haul. If we have this facility, we'll expand our allied health programs right here, and those programs can probably double. We can probably double the number of nurses we produce every year if and when, well, not if, but when we get this program in this new facility.
Just a curious question with the dual enrollment side of it. How are you working with USCB to address some of that? And I'm specifically gearing this towards an underutilized opportunity on Hilton Head.
Yeah, so I think in some ways USCB and TCL are competitors. Mm-hmm. In some ways we collaborate. I'd like to send as many individuals to USCB when they finish at TCL through a bridge type program, much the way Tri-County does with Clemson and other universities. And they're interested in that. But we do compete in some ways for the students in the high schools. But USCB doesn't do workforce training programs like we do. They do primarily general education programs, psychology, English, those sort of things to transfer into their.
Yeah, I'm thinking more along the lines of the dual enrollment.
Oh, the hospitality thing?
Well, just, no, really the high school kids, yeah. Right? You mentioned driving far, right? So if there's an opportunity to have that's, utilize some of the space at USCB on Hilton Head.
If you're talking about the hospitality facility on the island. Yeah. And I know that they've been working to trying to find a way to more better. Yeah. utilize that facility. I think they're still working on that. I personally think that Al and I could collaborate on that and figure out a way to help share that facility and us share the cost and better utilize it and serve the students on Hilton Head Island in a better way.
I think that would be amazing, and I think you would have our support with that.
Would anyone from the public like to address the question?
Angie, have
I
something?
actually have
Oh,
one.
I'm sorry.
How many of your nursing students that, or your medical students that graduate stay here locally?
I would say the large majority of them. A few of them are spouses of military and they transfer and they go on, but the majority stay right here. A couple graduation classes ago, and I speak at each, it's actually a pinning ceremony for the nurses. We're graduating 26 nurses, I think, and ADN nurses. And by the way, with COVID, a lot of these hospitals have fallen off the requirement to have a bachelor's degree. They'll accept associate degree RNs, which my wife was. And I'm very proud to announce the last several NCLEX tests, that's the national test for nurses that they have to pass before they can go practice as a nurse. We've had a 100% graduation rate. That beats Clemson, USC, many of the big universities. They can't claim the same thing. So I'm very happy about that. Thank you. Many of them stay. So I asked the group, I said, how many of you are employed already? And everybody raised their hand but one. And so I put that person on the spot and I said, everybody's got a job, what's your plans? And that person said, well, I'm going to go on and get my bachelor's degree right now. So it was a complete success. Then I asked how many are staying and working locally. And 3/4 of them probably raised their hand and said they are.
Do you track them over time? I'm just curious.
We do have a thing called gainful employment for all of our students. We have to track them over time to see where they're at and if they're being employed and at what level. It's a very hard thing for us to do because we lose track of them. Once they graduate, they go on and do things. But as best we can tell, over 90%, about 92, 93% of our students go to work in our area, and we think they stay here. And that applies to the health sciences too.
Thank you.
I think, question?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, when you
Yeah, it's we're getting close. What I want to do is figure out a way that I can do that before I get the full approvals from the state. Right now, we just have some very basic programming done for a facility and the site work, but we need to go forward. I think we can do that pretty soon. I think we're getting close enough with the 1.3 that's left to attain to move forward. Yes, sir. I know there's no personal interest in that, Frank.
John Kemp?
I think I say this every time I see you. Workforce development is also for adults.
It is.
And I think we need to look at evening school so people can work during the day and learn at night. And I just stress that all the time. It's just a comment, really.
That's a good point. That's a good point, sir. Evening classes and weekend classes have been tough for me to get going. There's a lot of barriers to get thrown up when I try to do that, especially in the health sciences. But I recognize that it's something we need to do. We can better utilize our facilities, our equipment, and reach some of those people who don't have the opportunity to come during the day. I was at Beaufort Memorial Hospital recently. I ran into a woman who was an LPN, or a PN, I think they call them now. And she said, I'd like to come to TCL and get my nursing degree. I said, well, good, come on. But right now we're giving free tuition. We're doing free tuition for almost everybody right now. We've done it ever since COVID started. There's some categories now that we don't have free tuition, but by far the majority, probably 85, 90% of people, it's no cost. And I said, well, come. She says, well, I got to work, and I can't come during the day. And so she's a good example, John, of a person that really could benefit from a nighttime program. There's challenges trying to get clinicals and things for those students, but I do think we've got to work harder to find ways to do that. Now, the trades, we do a lot of stuff at night. My granddaughter, who graduated from high school up in Topsail Island, North Carolina, came down here with her mom when they came back from Spain, and she wanted to be a welder. I mean, she's 19, who would have thought? You know, she's got blue hair and, you know, a couple piercings. But her job was, she really wanted to be a welder. So I got her into a welding class, no cost. She passed. She had several job offers, and now she's making $26 an hour as a welder. And, otherwise she'd probably be working, at retail for, $10 an hour or something. So it's a good example, John, of people going at nighttime and taking minimum wage and getting them to a living wage.
Thank you.
I think she's still got blue hair, though.
Anyone from the public? Well, I'll just end, Rich, with a couple statistics. With the groundbreakings that Hardeeville had last week, already committed and going vertical are the Hardeeville Commerce Park, Riverport, the Salt Site in Clarius, and in progress, there will be 13 million square feet of warehouse and logistics, and there's still left land. That affects everyone and every jurisdiction in this room, because those jobs are going to be filled by everybody from all our jurisdictions.
Slow down. Slow down.
Yeah, and they're going to, want to come off the island, so give them a bridge, will you please, and let them come over to Hardeeville and work. But this is something that I think the whole region needs to get all of our young people working in these jobs that are coming.
I think, when you talk about warehousing, when I was a youngster, I worked in a warehouse, and that was mostly about forklifts and, writing down SKUs and everything by hand, and, that's not today's warehouse. They're highly automated and very efficient, and you've got to have skills to program that robotics. It's much more than it used to be.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we hope to provide for through this facility.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Tell Mary Lee we want her to get better.
Yeah, she can maybe come back sometime and do a better job than me, but
No, you did wonderful, and just tell her to stay isolated until she gets well.
thank everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving,
Thank
Rich.
you.
Okay, this is our last meeting of the year, and what we typically like to do is set some ideas for the agenda for the coming year. And Joe Passaman was nice enough to work on that for us, and now he will present some ideas for future consideration by the group. Joe, it's all yours.
Good morning, everyone. I'll put this over here to make sure it gets recorded. As you can see, I'm going to start off with some facts that we all should know about. Here's our 46 counties in the state. I want to emphasize certain counties. Do you want me to press? Okay. I want to talk about the 10 largest counties. Greenville, Horry, Charleston, Richland, Spartanburg, York, Lexington, Anderson. Those 8 are our Tier 1 counties. That means they have populations of 200,000 or more people. It's interesting where they're located. Greenville, Spartanburg, and York, northwest, right at the North Carolina border. Anderson, northwest, Georgia border. Horry, northeast, North Carolina. 2 in the center of the county, Lexington and Richland. And then the rest are right at the Atlantic Ocean.
There you go.
Voila. Number 9, Beaufort County. The census had us miss 200,000 people. Are we over 200,000 people now? Yes. Do we act like a Tier 1 county? Yes. Do we serve more than 200,000 people a day? Yes. And finally, Dorchester. Those are the 10 counties. Facts. It's where you are and what you have to offer everyone. So who are the counties that we're most closely associated with? Well, we're Beaufort County, but our partner is Jasper County, Colleton County, Hampton County, Bamberg, Barnwell, Allendale. Now, it depends. If you saw what we talked about, if you were there when I talked about the state of the region, we have various groupings of counties. It depends upon which group you're in. If you're talking about Soloco, we have certain groups of counties, too. But if you're talking about SCA, all 7 of those are there. So why are they important? Well, we're the largest county in the region. Our population is greater than every other county in our region put together. Jasper, obviously, we have the most closely tied with them. Roads that start in Beaufort end in Jasper. Colleton touches the county. Most of their people work in Beaufort County or Jasper County. Hampton, Barnwell, Bamberg, and Allendale, most of them work there. Of the 7 counties, 6 of them continue to grow. 1 of them is not growing. Allendale is in serious jeopardy. Their population continues to decline. So, I talked about this a long time ago. Where were we 30 years ago? Well, Sun City didn't exist. There was no Exit 8. The only way you got to Hilton Head was you had to use Exit 28, come down I-95 to Hilton Head on a 2-lane road, which was called 462. 170 was 2 lanes. 17 was 2 lanes. Didn't have Paris Island. There was no Cross Island. The roundabout was brand new. There was no Bluffton Parkway, and it was a great place to live. It still is. It still will be. But what we have to do is we have to understand who we are, where we are, and what we have, and deal with it that way. So, here's now the ideas for the future that we have to talk about as a group. There's population growth in all of our counties. I know that there are people that live here and say, I live here now, I don't want anybody else coming. Sorry, not going to happen. COVID proved that. So we're going to continue to grow. We have to deal with it. We have to deal with our roads, our bridges, our public transportation, and our ferry services. Facts. Evacuation routes are going to be a problem for us now because of the poor quality of our roads, but they're going to be a greater problem for us beginning next year when I-95 begins to expand, because our only evacuation routes lead us all to I-95 to go north. Economic development. That's the lifeblood of everybody. If you are not developing economically, you're dying. That's the problem with Allendale. They can't have economic development. There isn't the infrastructure. There isn't the population to desire all of that. So we need places to live, work, and play. And where is that going to be? It's going to be in our region. We have to talk about future sales tax and or capital tax referendums. There's only 2 ways we do things. It is through a sales tax or a property tax. And there are consequences when you choose one over the other. Housing is a tremendous problem. We know that. If you were at a recent program that was put on by our mayors, we were talking about housing, and for the last 24 years, there isn't affordable housing in Beaufort County at all. Healthcare is an issue. As we grow older, we need more services, and more retirees are coming to this area. They're going to demand services. Childcare is a huge problem. We have people that stop working because they can't afford the child care. It's more costly to have their children in child care than it is to go to work. Education, well, Dr. Goff said all of that. Education is extremely important at all levels. Workforce training, again, that's a huge one, and the environment. That's what this group is going to need to focus on because we're a key element. So how do we solve these challenges? I just listed a whole bunch of things. You are going to decide what areas do we focus on? How do we focus on those? Well, I dare say it's SOLOCO. SOLOCO is going to play a tremendous role. I have, and you will get all of this, so I'm not going to read all of this, so that we can just have a conversation about, well, what do you think about what I just said? Is that the way we want to go? The role of SOLOCO is going to be important. We have a lot of people here all the time. Wherever we go, there's many of us. Their leadership, not only at the county or municipal level, but they're community leaders as well. So it's going to be our voice. Can SOLOCO be that voice collectively to take back to the various organizations? We're going to have a vision. Where do we want to go and how do we get there? And then it's our value. The people in this room, the quality, our integrity, our innovation, our accountability, our collaboration, and our leadership. This is the talent that we have. If we are to be what we want to be, it's got to start someplace. And I believe that SOLOCO is the place that we can be most effective because we deal with the various groups. So I'm going to go back to this one because this is where we have the dialogue. Are these the challenges? Are there other challenges that are more pressing? What's the order we should take them in? How should we do that? Should we create subcommittee systems that focus on things? We've already done that. We were talking about child care. We had a group formed that's going to deal with child care. Those are the kinds of things that I believe we should be doing in year 2025. So now I will open it up for questions. I stunned everybody.
All right, we'll start with the board. Any questions? And perhaps we should frame this in terms of your questions in terms of, okay, how do we put, if an item here is important, how do we put that and frame it in the form of an agenda item? So just think about that, or any other general questions or comments for Joe. We'll start with the board.
I know it's a lot to take in.
Yes, John?
We have all these problems, I guess, but I think it's too broad. We have to dig down and say, okay, in environment, what one thing in environment, not just say environment, say, for example, trash. We're coming up with trash pretty soon. That could stop everything all the way around. How can we slow it down? How can we do something like that? Rather than just say environment, I think we have to have maybe a committee or something like that say, okay, in housing, what one thing is going to be the most important?
Again, it's thought-provoking. The environment is, yeah, that's a broad term. It's how do we attack the environment? We have only so much land available, our waterways, okay? All of that is environmental. How we build things is environmental. So environment obviously plays a big role.
I would like to propose to the board something, there's a couple of things that we've talked about that are on this list. Childcare, for example, and the environment. We talked about littering and how to follow up. The subcommittees, some of them start, and the only link is me. I can't keep up. So I think what this board needs to do to be effective, if we start a subcommittee, for instance, what's going on with childcare, I haven't followed up with that subcommittee. I don't have time. Trying to get these agendas done all the time. So I don't want them to fall by the wayside, or the litter subcommittee. I haven't got them structured. So when we do these subcommittees, I think one of the board members we need to assign a volunteer who will be the lead, who will follow up with this subcommittee, ask them what needs they are, when do they want to come in front of this board, and kind of, push that subcommittee along. Because if I don't do it, I get busy. I haven't been in touch with the child care subcommittee, and there's good people on that. I owe Tom Heinz a return email. We need to have a leader in each one of these subcommittees.
I'll tell you something that's near and dear to me. As the population grows, there's an unfortunate item that happens. Growth in population, growth in crime. Growth in crime, you have to do something with the criminals. There was one county that did it eloquently. The sheriff said, listen, our county has grown significantly. We do have a crime problem. We can address it in our referendum. I can build an additional detention center. So the question to you is, do you want the criminals in your house or my house? That's going to be a problem. When you take a look at our 7 counties, each and every one of them have a detention center that is at some place, point, and time. Many of them are so bad, they have to do something. We have proposed 4 counties get together to have one brand new detention center that will be state-of-the-art for the next 50 years. I believe that's something important to all of us that we should be aware of. Maybe that's an issue we should take up to ensure that it becomes a reality, because the populations aren't going away. We just had a presentation last night because of the number of drive-by shootings and that the camera systems that we need to put in. And we're behind the times. Beaufort County doesn't have the camera systems, but Hilton does. Bluffton has the camera systems. City of Beaufort has the camera systems. We don't. So those are things that we have to do. Others, insights.
Anyone from the public would offer us any guidance in how we could, or board members. Josh, please.
I was just going to say this, and maybe this is only true for myself. These are undoubtedly the challenges of the future, and I think all of us in some way are talking about each one of these. And maybe it's just true to me because I'm newer on city council, but had I had more time to prepare for what conversation should have looked like today on which one of these topics we should discuss moving forward and what priority they should be in, I think my comments would have been a little bit better and more clear. So while I would agree that all of these challenges are definitely relevant to each of us, and I like the idea of the subcommittees and the point that you brought up of having maybe a volunteer from this board follow up with each one. Unfortunately, just because I lacked the preparation and what the conversation was going to be today, it's going to be really hard for me to identify and organize a priority list. But if there's a way for us to kind of weigh in, or for me to weigh in after taking into consideration what you've outlined here, I would appreciate that opportunity.
This is all thought-provoking. It's not my way of saying to you, this is the list, and this is only the list. This is an idea, and the role that we can play, because we deal with so many entities around us. We're part and parcel of either councils or committees or things in the state. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. So you need to take a look at this document, and the other part about how I think SOLOCO fits in best to help move these things along.
Stephen?
Thank you, Mayor. I had two things. One, I think one item that it's not on the list, I think would important to be added would be like arts and culture. One of the things that we are kind of having conversation about is looking at a performing arts, cultural center. I know there's one on Hilton Head, but really when you start talking about regionally, that's one thing that's lacking until you get to Savannah. And I think it just goes into the quality of life, and I think it would be worth adding. I don't know that that's a SOLOCO topic, but I think it is going to be something that's more regional. Yeah.
Part of the economic development.
And that,
People need outlets.
I agree, that goes back to what was just stated, and I don't know, Mayor, do you have a topic for January already?
No, we have to discuss that before we leave. Other than officer elections, that's the only thing. So we do need to have suggestions for January.
Going back to what the councilman said, I think it would, since again, these are, a lot of these are same things we have all in our strategic plans, is to go back and maybe come back in January and set the agenda for the year and maybe look at some more focused, specific items underneath each of these, and we can kind of continue this conversation with some time to prepare and look at specific things that we think would be more regional beneficial that this group would want to take on. And then going back to your comment earlier, I agree. And do you think you were going with that as maybe having somebody on the board actually be the contact point for each one of these subcommittees?
Absolutely, that's where I was at.
I think that's a great idea, and you can all and put them on the task of being able to prepare and update and so forth like that. I'd be more than glad to be involved and do any of that as you need.
A follow-up, and I'm glad you brought that up. We did, a year ago, we took a poll, and we came up with high priority, medium priority, lowest priority, and others that the board came up with to talk about 2024. And some of them got done. The penny tax was talked about. Trash and recycling was talked about. So the healthcare needs, we talk about workforce training. There's a lot of things that we did talk about here. So if you'd like, and if this follows up to what Josh said, I can put this together for 2025, and then, Stephen, we could do what you're suggesting, is we'll all come back with the results of the poll and do that same thing. Take the input from Joe, everybody list out what they think are priorities based on this and/or other things, and then we can talk about it in January.
Mayor, one other thing I would add to that is just kind of look at the next step, which is like when we talked about affordable housing, we were able to put together the Regional Housing Trust Fund. When we talked about environmental, we did the SOLOCO stormwater design standards. As I would think, whatever we prioritize, what is an outcome that we want to see this group focus on, so that, because it seems about every 6 to 12 months, we get a really good thing. Like I said, we did the SOLOCO, then we came back and did affordable housing. Now we're looking at the traffic impact. If we talk about healthcare, what is something that we want to have in place from that? Is it partnering with like VIM or some others to talk about how we address gaps or needs, and something that we can have as a goal to accomplish as the committee out of that focus. Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's, I
Want to
think
make sure
that's
I was
good.
concise. Sorry about that.
Yeah. I would also might suggest to the group, Beaufort County floated a sales tax, and it failed. And perhaps us as municipalities and counties, we should assess the outcome of that. And that, even if there's people who were for it or against it, there's still, both sides would need, this would be a forum. Does this board want to talk about and assess and perhaps give input into the county on whether or not we want to come back with another sales tax, or is that just a topic we don't want to touch?
I would support discussing that because I think debriefing whether it was a success or not is extremely important moving forward. And I would just also ask, I don't know if you would email this over. I did capture a picture of the priorities or the challenges for the future, but
You will get.
Oh, okay,
Kelly
perfect.
will be able to send everybody this whole presentation, so you'll see the whole.
okay.
Can we get the one from last year that you shared, Mayor, that you just held up?
Oh, yes, and I'll send this out, I'll send this out to everybody, and Joe, Kerry will get this out, and I will ask everybody what they would like to see as discussion on agenda items for 2025. And then what we did last year, we had the whole list, and then, you know, we can establish, okay, this is a high priority, this is a medium, but I'll send this out and ask everybody to send their list.
Real quick, I would agree with Josh in that debriefing it also allows the conversation for each municipality to say how they're going to address the shortfalls, right, of funding. Because that's a real conversation as we look forward to having another potential referendum in 2 years. So I think it's a good thing to do.
Okay. So if we discuss our priorities based on all this in January and the results of the poll, and then perhaps February designate a debriefing of the sales tax referendum. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll do the poll. I'll send that out. And the sales tax will be February. And I will also ask, as we do the agenda, I will ask someone to volunteer to be the lead contact and the follow-up person for the child care subcommittee we have going, and for the littering subcommittee.
Mayor
Okay.
Williams, are you suggesting that we have one individual for the child care to follow up with them and then one individual to follow up with the litter, or you have?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Yes.
Thank you.
And that, and really what it is, you know, these folks have started, you know, kind of say, okay, where are you? What are you trying to accomplish? What's your mission? When do you want to come back and give a report? Just got to make sure they're continue to move forward. That's what I had in mind.
You know, Steve has a good idea for a future topic as well. The county has a comprehensive plan that you can see on its website that has a whole bunch of elements and side points to it. It's very, very detailed. That's the plan to take us for the next 20 years. Does it match with your plan in your municipality, yours in your municipality, your municipality? Some changes, because plans are just a plan and things get in the way. Maybe we have to modify our plan or your plan as we move forward. So that might be something we want to do.
And that could be on the list. And when I send out, just to everybody, put 10 things, 20 things, it doesn't matter. We had a lot of items listed last year, so, you know, put down whatever you feel needs to be, could be an item that this group could accomplish something.
Picking your priority, but also under each one, when you have a subcategory, as your priority within that category, identify that, because otherwise we could be all over the board. But I think it's important to really hone in to those areas that we all feel unified about, that we need to address together. So,
Good point.
under population growth in all counties, you know, the first thing that comes to my mind, just as an example, is how do we control overdevelopment? Right, and that's for the entire community. So that's where my thought goes, is the overdevelopment side, and where do we want to go, and what do we want to be, and what does that lead to? So,
And what is the definition of overdevelopment?
Right, exactly,
You know, And so that's a good point. It's one I know we're struggling with every
yeah,
day.
and I'm going to say, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody on this. I'm
No,
not, you know, but this is a conversation we have a lot on the island, is where are we taking it? You know, now that we're close to build out, what is the future? You know, and when redevelopment comes around, what does it look like? So throughout the region, what is it that we're trying to protect? What are we trying to be, you know, both economically, environmentally, sustainability, all of that. So
We'll take one more comment before we adjourn for Turkey.
Leave it to somebody else. I have something I'll talk with later.
Rob wanted to say something in the back.
Yeah, I just want to echo on the recent discussion that we do have
Right.
and that we are working on preparing. It's already entitled or approved. Is to then generate discussion. That's something that we're prepared to present to this committee.
Thank you, Rob, for reminding me of my faulty memory. It's age. I always blame it on age. So we have 3 subcommittees that SOLOCO has initiated, Rob's Growth Committee, the Child Care, and the Litter. So I'll get that out to everybody. We have till the end of January. Curry sent the meeting schedule for next year, right? Okay, we're sending that out again, and our next meeting is the 4th Tuesday in January in Hardyville. So, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy New Year.